Right, so Monday now, back into essentially a new week, and because I'm back on Gibraltar time zone, we're essentially on Spanish time, so we're an hour ahead of the UK, which works phenomenally well. That hour makes such a big difference. So what would normally be, say, 9 a.m. in the UK is 10 a.m. here. So it means I can push calls back a little bit more. So I've got a bigger work block in the morning. So essentially, I'd start my first call at either 12 or 1 Gib time. So then it means you've literally got all morning to focus on work on the business, and then not essentially have to rush, essentially skipping that work to then get messages cleared, to then get on calls, to then do X, Y, and Z, and essentially you can just be in control of your morning more. So what I'm doing now is I was just finalising creatives for our new ad campaign that we're going to launch into the trades industry, and then at the same time just clearing some messages and now going through any client ad campaigns. One client ad campaign here that I'll show you in a second is, like I mentioned yesterday, we've transitioned really heavily to running just messenger ads. At the minute they're working phenomenally well. This one client ad campaign, last week we set the goal of getting over 100 inbound leads asking to actually work with this client, bearing in mind that their price point for their program is 1,500. So out of this 100, obviously there's going to be a percentage that then don't reply, there's going to be a percent that don't book in calls, and then there's a percent that do. That percent that do, then there's going to be obviously a percent that show up to calls. We're aiming for 60+% show rates, and then out of that, there's going to be a percentage that then obviously close. We're aiming for around 50 to 60% close rate as well, off of this lead volume, and it's been working really well. We hit a 45k month for the client the other month, so we're just looking to double down on that. The thing that we found with these messenger ads, we've been running them for a little while now, and we just went through a phase where the audience was just essentially saturated with the ads. So we've just spent a lot of time split testing to bring cost per message down. At the minute, we're averaging £5 to £6 based off last week, £5 to £6 an inbound message for coaching to work with him for a £1,500 program. So last week, I'll show you now, last week we had 140 inbound leads, which is amazing, exactly what we want. And as a result, we're in theory going to be in a position where we can scale that even more, and we can just scale budget, taper that up. And generally what we'll do at this time, because budget's a little bit higher now, so we're running budget at about 82 there, 42, about 120 a day. So then across the month, we're running at about 3.5k ad spend. So 3.5k ad spend, in theory, if we keep this flow up, we'll be averaging about 500 inbound leads a month asking for coaching. If we can then get at least half of those move through into calls, we'll have our 100 to 200 plus calls a month mark, which is what we want. If we can close half of that, we're looking at 50 to 100 new clients. And then, if half of that can show up, 50 to 100 calls, and then if we can close 50 to 60% of that, then we're looking at about the 50 or 60 new clients. 50 clients, let's say we close them all at 1,500, which you won't, that's 75k new cash contracted into the business, depends how they split pay it. There's obviously going to be a percentage that don't pay up front, and then a percentage that then go on to monthlies. That's fine. But all in all, there's good volume. And the cool thing with this, because we've run it for a couple months now, it means that then month on month, there's always conversations that we can resurface from the month before, because it's not just like a random one-off. There's a lot of lead volume in the business now. They've brought in closers, they've brought in setters to essentially manage that volume. I'm going to show you the campaigns now. So look at this here. So we're running essentially two different campaigns. Here we've got our Australian campaign, and then here we've got our US campaign. Very similar creatives, except they're just slightly tweaked based off Oz and US. Two campaigns, 3/4 of daily budget will come into here, and then 1/4 into the US. The reason being is over the last couple of weeks, the US has been increasingly more expensive, but we've now pulled that down a lot with a lot of split tests. And then the Australian one is generally holding at this price. 85 inbound leads asking for coaching from Australia last week, and then 55 from US. And then you'll see the way that we split this is we don't just run one campaign. We've got 2 campaigns so that we can essentially control the budget more and choose if we want more going to Oz or more US. Then inside each of these we'll have 2 to 3 audiences based off how high spend is. When spend is high, we can test more things, and we're averaging £6 and £5 an inbound lead asking for coaching. Now, a big thing with this is now that spend's getting higher, we can split test more because we've got more money going into things to then be able to go, right, we've got more budget, let's allocate a percentage of that budget on these other things to split test. And a big thing with ads is you need to be proactive instead of being reactive. When you're reactive, you're on the back foot and you always are making decisions in a little bit of a state of sort of scarcity. When we make decisions in a state of, right, this is what the data's saying, I'm using the data to make decisions, it always works. There's one metric on here called CPM, cost per essentially 1,000 impressions. If you track that, you'll often be able to preempt as well a little bit how expensive it is to get engagement, to essentially get views on your ad, eyeballs on your ad in that audience. And you can then use that a little bit to sort of preempt and make adjustments when you need to. So I'll just go through this morning, going through ad campaigns, tweaking anything that needs to be tweaked, and getting overviews across to clients on tracking sheets so we can essentially get perspective. Then we'll just continue working on the business, launching our internal ad campaigns, and then essentially just scaling out from there. Then into an afternoon of calls, generally try and front load calls Monday and Tuesday internally, and then it sets us up for the week. So Tuesday morning, back at the laptop. Monday's always really busy, have sort of like 6 hours of calls, and then just the start of the week's always a busy one. But now reviewing ad campaigns. We launched the campaign for trades service businesses yesterday, had 2 applications through to work with us since it started spending sort of in the evening. It's a newer ad account. Long list of different reasons. We just had to run a new ad account, and just took a little bit of time since we launched it. Launched it at the start of the day. Facebook didn't spend anything, and then it started spending towards the end of the day, and then waking up to 2 applications now, which is pretty cool. The way that we're running things, I'll show you in a second, but we essentially drive everything through to like a quiz style opt-in, and then a WhatsApp outbound off the back of it, a whole follow-up sequence with WhatsApp if they don't reply, plus a whole email sequence that we send out. We send daily emails, and then when they do reply, we have our AI set to essentially book them in. Really cool thing with this one, I'll show you how we set up all our UTM tracking on it, so we can then literally now see exactly which audience and which ad that lead came from. And a big thing that we're doing now is we're split testing. So we're split testing different ads in terms of copy at the minute, keeping creative the same. And then what we'll do is off the back of that, we'll then be able to split test creative even more, and then audiences even more. Also, here's one little simple thing that you can do in Ads Manager. Now, when you're spending money on ads, you don't want to potentially have your ad account hacked and people run up a massive bill on your card. So instead of using a debit card on your Ads Manager, put a credit card. You can get an Amex for, I think the first year is free, and then it's like £195 a year for the gold card on Amex. On the gold card, when you spend, you then get points. So what this means is if someone runs up a bill on your card, you can speak to Amex and they'll just cancel the payments, so you're safer. You can then spend on this over time, and your spending limit will increase so that you can run up essentially more ad budget. But then what also happens is every essentially pound that you spend, you get points back. Those points can then be used for things like business travel, airport lounges. You get some airport lounges included in the card as well. Airbnbs, Amazon, hotels, travel. So you're essentially spending money on ads that are profitable, but then also you're getting points that you can then spend on other things to make it even more profitable. So it's your cheat code. If you're not using an Amex on your ad account, why not? Doesn't make sense. At least a credit card. I personally prefer Amex. They've got different tiers. You get a basic one that you don't get points for. It's just a credit card, so that would help like keep your account safe. And then you can go to the gold card. The gold card only makes sense if you're spending over 2k a month, not just on ads, but like in general through that card a month. And then you can go up to like the platinum and other ones, and they make more sense like if you're traveling a little bit more often and if you're just running up a bigger bill through Amex. You can just chuck it on and ultimately your account will then be safer. As always, first thing every morning, going through ad campaigns now. It's a Wednesday morning, and our campaign's now been running essentially from the start of this week, and we're essentially getting data and trying to optimize even more. Cool thing, right now it's costing us about £4 to £6 to get an application to work with us. 1 in 4 at the minute will then book in a call. Then out of that 1 in 4 that books a call, generally 80 to 90% will show. And then off the back of that, 70% will close. We essentially now have a numbers game where as soon as we have full proof of concept, we just scale budget, and it's just literally a game of pumping more traffic in, and the system runs it all. I'm going to show you here. I literally can come in and I can see full perspective on which campaign, which audience, which individual ad that lead came from, plus the AI setter then has a conversation with them, replying within literally minutes or seconds. It's 8 seconds. And then I just pick up a call that comes through. Closers coming on board this week as well, finalizing sort of last details with that too. So then it's literally just a sales process that's fully removed. We have one team member, which is the closer, that will then just take that sales call, and I do nothing apart from just pump traffic in. See, this is the thing with paid ads. Once you get consistency and you know that you put this in and you get this out, you literally have a predictable lead gen system. The problem with sort of organic and all these other methods is you don't have as much predictability, because it's not a case of, right, I put this money in and I get this outcome out. Of course, organic has its place, but when you can scale paid ads, and it's literally then a case of once you've got proof of concept, you just spend more, immensely powerful. We're going to get proof of concept over the next sort of couple of days, and then we'll just be really aggressive with budget. And it should get pretty fun.